Well, I have a very last question that might definitely need a very long answer. You know, most of the PhDs have good quality manuscripts at the end of their PhD research. After 3-4 years, you have a manuscript that you have worked for a long time. What would you recommend them?
Yeah, I think we should talk about books, because we have talked about journals a lot. Obviously, in some academic systems, in some disciplines, in some countries, it's also quite common to turn your PhD into several journal articles. But since you've been doing a PhD and you have covered a big topic and you've written a very long manuscript usually on that topic, it's worth considering publishing a book. And in Germany at least, that's different in some other countries, you also have a publication obligation for your PhD. So before you are allowed to carry the title of a PhD, you have to publish your PhD somehow. So it's well worth considering turning it into a book. And there are different considerations to bear in mind. We have different academic publishers. I think that's quite important to bear in mind. So first of all, we have university presses. University presses are publishers that are linked to a specific university. University presses are often not for profit. So in a way, they are all about disseminating academic research of high quality, and they're usually very renowned. It also depends a bit on the university. Obviously, if you publish with Cambridge University Press, a lot of people say this is, you know, a very, very reputable publisher. If it's, say, the University of Manchester University Press, it's still a reputable publisher, but some people may argue maybe not quite as renowned. But that's disputable. Maybe in a specific field, University of Manchester Press, for example, does excellent work and is also very renowned. So that's one thing, or one route. Then there are also commercial publishers that are specialized on academic research. Sometimes people say, you know, their reputation isn't quite as high, they are profit-oriented, maybe they put out stuff not because of academic rigor, but because they simply want to sell copies. That said, there's a lot of very, very good research that comes through commercial publishers, and a lot of very, very well-known authors who publish through them. And again, in specific fields, they're often very, very specialized. A third group maybe, usually they are commercial publishers as well, are publishers that come or that combine their specific academic perspective with a certain political angle. So outlets like Verso, like Haymarket, like Pluto Press, for example, put out research in the social sciences from a broadly left-wing political perspective. And through that, they reach an audience that goes slightly beyond academia. Activists also read stuff that is put out by those publishers, for example. Okay, so the first step would be to find a suitable publisher. And again, as I said, with journal articles, think about books that you enjoyed reading. Have a look at what the publishers are. A second thing to look out for is that publishers usually have book series. So a renowned scholar an expert in a certain field or a group of scholars commissions books from authors in their field on specific topics. And in that book series, then all the books that are published have a certain connection because they all cover a similar theme, broadly understood. So I guess they're all about finance and international political economy. So book series is something to look out for. And then what usually happens is an informal inquiry. You can get in touch with the publisher and say, I'm preparing a book manuscript on this or that topic. Would you be interested? And then they usually will say, yeah, either they're not interested because it's not suitable, and they do other things, or they say usually, please prepare a proposal. Mm-hmm. And on their websites, they usually describe in great detail what the proposal should contain: a synopsis of the book, a draft table of contents, maybe 1 or 2 draft chapters, some sort of consideration of where the book is located in the existing literature and what's new about the book, similar to a literature review. Maybe some considerations on the audience. Is it for specialists? Can it be used for students? And so forth. Maybe some considerations on whether there are other books out there that cover similar topics. And then you submit this proposal, and usually that then also goes through a peer review process. So reviewers read it. Sometimes it's not blind. I've had non-blind reviews in that area. Very often it's also blind, and then they comment on it and say, you know, is this feasible? Is this not feasible? What is good about it? What is not good about it? Are there things that need changing in the plans? And then the publisher hopefully says, well, sometimes they say, please revise your proposal along the lines of the recommendations of the reviewers and resubmit it. But hopefully, eventually they say, yes, we want to do this book with you. And what then happens is that they offer you a book contract, which spells out all the sort of commercial aspects of things and the contract explains, you know, what the format of the book is, but also how much you earn, what the royalties are, what the rights situation is, and so forth. And once you've signed the contract, then you are in conversation with the commissioning editor about producing this book, and go through different stages of the book production. Obviously, at some point, you submit a manuscript, and then they look at it again and see whether there are any things that still need changing. Possibly you need to make some revisions, and finally several stages of production until you have the final product in your hands.
As far as I know, during the book production process, you may also get editorial review as well as blind peer review.
Yeah. Both exist. Sometimes it's easier for them to work with editorial review. Sometimes they use peer review. Sometimes they use a bit of a combination. So, say the proposal goes through peer review, and later on it's editorial review when you have submitted your manuscript. But that's something to find out. Usually the publishers describe in great detail on their web pages what the process is. You will already notice that it's quite a lengthy process. Even if your PhD is finished, especially if you work with international publishers, they very often take great care to put out high quality books, and they want you to revise certain things. So unfortunately that means you may have submitted your PhD, you may have passed, you may have obtained a great grade, but there's still some work to do. That said, it's well worth it. It's great to hold the thing in your hands, and obviously it's also a way to reach out to a lot of people and to share your ideas with them.
We have already advertised Global Labor Journal. Well, especially, do you have any recommendation for ICDD PhDs?
Yeah, I mean, what is great about the ICDD is obviously that there are a range of publications in place around the ICDD. So some things you can check out. We've mentioned the Global Labor Journal, but there's also a working paper series of the ICDD, for example. And there's also a book series, Labor and Globalization book series, that puts out books on the topics covered by the ICDD quite broadly. And what is great about this book series is also that these books are open access. So it's not just that there is a hard copy, but there's also a PDF online, so a huge audience around the world have access to this book. And this is especially important, obviously, if you want large audience, if you want to reach audiences in countries where libraries aren't as wealthy and can't pay for loads and loads of pricey books. So in that sense, it's a very good opportunity to put out research.
Thank you very much. It was always a pleasure to have a conversation with you, and I will definitely suggest that please check out the links that we provide and other materials just under the video. Thank you. Thank you, Alex.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a great pleasure to be here and share my ideas and experiences about publishing.